and seeing what does 800 square feet look like. And it looks like we might be taking more space than we should be taking. In other words, she's going to have the La Raza Unida exhibit there, the Veterans exhibit, the Crystal City Veterans, which includes her father. So we thought we would measure things out, and while we were there, we came to the conclusion of trying to fit our space into our museum into a 720 square feet area, which would be great, by the way. So we went through the process measuring, and we have a real hard deadline in November. November is their big spinach festival, where a town that has 7,000 people roughly gets up to 30,000 people to come in for several days, a whole week actually. And so that's our target date in November, to try to get a museum put together. This will be our first step, first phase. We won't try to do everything all at one time. The idea is to do it by phases, not just because of cost, but the time involved. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a big challenge, but we're going to try to do that. The next slide is really, we spent some time at the high school there, and we went through tons of photos that we think we're going to be using for November, this coming November. That's only a few months away. We spent a lot of time curating, figuring out what's going to work the best for this first showing. So Diane, did you want to add any more to it? Okay. Okay. So I'll now turn this over to Victor.
Thank you, Kaz. This whole process of doing the pilgrimage and our educational work, and now doing this possibility of a museum, we uncovered a story that was just extraordinary. The photos that we've been using in the pilgrimages in the Rotunda were actually from a 2012 exhibit that was compiled by Hector Estrada, and this shows a picture of Hector and his wife. Oops, I'm sorry. So Hector left, he grew up in Crystal City, and he left in 1964, and he ended up in the Bay Area looking for good work, and he found a good union job as a plumber, and for 40 years he had this wonderful career. But what is extraordinary is that the San Jose Museum, the Japanese American Museum, was there, and he visited it. And he saw this story about a concentration camp in Crystal City, in the city that he grew up in, and he had no idea. I mean, he went to school in some of the buildings that were there, and this whole story of how he came to understand his story, his city story, was through a museum that the Japanese Americans community had established. And so this is something that when we found this out, we made contact with Hector. And in 2012, let's see if I can do this here. In 2012, he brought his own internment museum to Crystal City. He did all the research, he went to the archives, he downloaded photos and blueprints, and he brought his story, the story of the internment, to Crystal City. And this was really the first internment museum. He did it for 4 days over the Spinach Festival. Students were brought in, and it was an extraordinary exhibit. And all of these photos are used now in our pilgrimages in the Rotunda. And this is from I think 2019, and maybe 2019. And it shows how important it is that these photos are preserved, and the Hector's work had a big impact on all of our pilgrims. And I just want to say, if it's possible, can we bring up Hector? Because I think he's zooming in from Hector. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I want to say, can you wave if you can hear us? And we will wave back. And I just want to say, we are deeply moved by your active friendship and solidarity and what you did on your own. Hector provided his own money, his own resources. He put together the drawings, and then he bought a car big enough to transport the exhibit from California to Crystal City, and then he left everything there, hopefully that it would be used again. And so I just want to say that, Hector, you are one extraordinary individual to make our story part of your story, and I just want to say that everybody here in our communities appreciates what you have done. So thank you, we salute you, and we will continue to work with you for our internment museum. So thank you. So going back to our PowerPoint, I'm going to turn over now the PowerPoint to Diane. There you go, Diane.
So I just wanted to spend a few minutes to kind of explain what's ahead for us. So we are going to have to go back to Crystal City sometime in early November to set up the exhibit, which we're very excited about. And again, thank you, Hector, for giving us a head start. You have left us big shoes to fill, but we appreciate all your work. We're going to feature the Estrada photo exhibit and a few other things, but we definitely have gotten a head start thanks to Hector's work. We also are going to be soliciting artifacts. This is kind of in the future. We need artifacts. We have photos, but no artifacts, so we will need to figure out a process to do outreach and ask people to donate artifacts if they have them so that we can feature them in the museum. Those artifacts can be letters, photos. I guess there's some sort of lantern that exists in Crystal City. Victor was trying to get this family to donate their sink because it was a sink that was used in one of the houses in Crystal City that they have in camp. And so anything. We're just looking for anything, but that will happen in the future. And then we will continue to solicit stories that we can feature within our museum. We are so blessed that Diana Palacios is going to be there on site. She's established her business there, so there will always be a greeter there to, open doors and keep the doors open for anybody that wants to come in, most of the time. So as opposed to us thinking about how do we hire staff, how do we keep the doors open, etc. So that is one of the nice features of this particular site. It's not to preclude us from, working on other things like the garden that we once also discussed. The city of Crystal City has applied for a JAX grant, which was a surprise to us, but they have applied for a JAX grant to build a garden by the monument. So hopefully, we'll hear soon whether or not they'll get that funding. But our partnership continues. So that said, we have a great relationship with the mayor and his staff, and we are so, so fortunate. So I'm going to just turn it over to Karen.
So this is our theme, together. Ishoni somos juntos. Together. That is how we're going to make this real.